Just want to once again thank you all for being here. I have a lot of people. I got a lot of cool stuff. But I wrote everything down because I don't want to miss anybody to thank. Okay. Just first of all, Denver Classroom Teachers Association, we're a strong union, and we have over 4,000 members. Right? We have lots of different types of teachers. We have SSPs, which are our social workers, our speech language pathologists. We have a few of those. We have our nurses, our psychologists, everybody that makes up and supports. We also have in DCTA, not many people know this, but we have other groups that we've just been able to bring in. Groups like our sign language interpreters. Some of them are here today. And we also have our career tech ed teachers as well. So we've been growing, and we're excited about having everybody here today. We want to give special thanks to the members of the DCTA Fund. The DCTA Fund are a group of elected and appointed members, DCTA members that come together and they make decisions. They make decisions about who is right for public education, who we want to back, who we want to endorse. Several of those people are here today. We'd like to thank Lindsay Hernandez, Erica Atchison, Darlene Rivera, Mr. Alex Nelson over here, Valerie Henderson, Julianne Thon, and of course Tiffany Choi. We also would like to thank our DCTA staff that's here today, Angelina Becerra. She's got a big following. Fabiola Armendariz. And of course, Rita Haker, who's following us down there in Texas today. In addition to that, we have been really blessed this year to have a wonderful consultant. We can't do this alone. You may know, we kind of teach all day, and that's our thing. And then when it comes to the world of like, how do you navigate this world, we always rely on partners to do that. And our partner is Kristen Seidel. I just can't tell you how much she's been able to help us and to forge, and she's been helping our campaigns. And that's why we're here today. Also, I do want to thank Lisa Escarcega, who is from the state board here. Now let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about our candidates. We have some here. I don't want to mess this up, so I'm going to read it. Just want to welcome educators, students, parents in our DPS community. Thank you for joining us today as we continue to work towards a more equitable DPS. We started something 4 years ago when we elected Dr. Carrie Olson and Director Jennifer Bacon. We finally saw the We finally saw the educator's voice lifted on the board. We were actually listened to. When we went on strike in 2019, both Dr. Olson and Director Bacon joined us to fight for a living wage. They walked with us. They were with us on the lines. They were there every step of the way. We continued our work in 2019 when we flipped the board with Directors Anderson, Balderman, and Reverend Lorbeck. Director Anderson he was on the horn all the time. So we thanked him for every bit of that. And I think that the strike was just an amazing thing that we all went through. And I'm okay with not doing it for another 25 years, but we'll do it if we need to. Over the past 20 months, our board has fought to ensure that educators, students, and their families are heard and centered through decision-making. We have a new superintendent who's ready to examine how we fund our schools and prioritize ensuring that all schools are set up to support our students and educators to engage in safe, culturally diverse learning environment. As soon as DPS moved to remote learning, our students and their families, they still had access to the food that they relied on. Every student and every educator in DPS was also given internet hotspots and computers to ensure that learning continued. We still have a lot more work to do, though. We're not done. We need to continue to build on the foundation that our board has started to build. We are starting to emerge from this global pandemic, and we need a board that understands the systems currently in place in order to change them. We must be certain our students and our educators are cared for, and that's what our slate brings: experience in education. First up, Dr. Carrie Olson is running for re-election. She's been on the board for 4 years. Before that, she was in the classroom for over 30 years. Her first 2 years on the board was under that reform control. We all remember that. We're still living with the hangover, as I like to say. We have some things. And she led the past two with our board the past 2 years. That experience of being in the classroom, knowing the mistakes and missteps of the past, and leading us in the future through the lens of a nationally board certified teacher. Dr. Olson, would you like to speak a little bit?
I would love to speak a little bit. And speaking of the national boards, that's how I got to know Rob. Because Kim Marcetta and I in 1998 started we started in 98 to get 99 certification. And I still remember sitting in her living room and Rob was trying to teach us how to videotape with the tape recorder. And we had no idea what we were doing. And so that was my first introduction. And every renewal since then, he's come and said, do you want me to help you record tape notes? That I am not technologically savvy. So
it's always the red button.
Yeah, it's the red button. But I appreciate that we have a leader in DCTA who's the National Board Certified Teacher. That process is very rigorous, and so I'm really glad. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Kristen. You moved to the back. You should stay up here at the front. Another round of applause for our fabulous leader. And I'd like to thank all the membership of DCTA, especially the fund, for being here today. And I also join everybody in remembering 9/11. I keep thinking of when I was in the classroom on 9/11. And I'm always, as my teammates would tell you, I'm always sort of the naive one. And I remember staring at the screen saying, how are they going to fix that hole? And Jackie Adagaga and Oscar Pulmonello looked at me and they're like, Carrie, they're not going to fix that hole. I said, are the buildings going to fall? And they looked at me like, what, are you stupid? Yes, the buildings are going to fall. But do you remember that disbelief when you saw that? When you were like, this can't be happening? Like, there's a hole in the World Trade Center. And then being in front of sixth graders. I had sixth graders at the time, and trying to help them navigate that is something I'll never forget. But that speaks to the experience of the teacher. And that's what I bring to the board. I wish I was moving into the technological age. I have a brand new iPad. Thank you to Anderson, who always helps me with technology. His next task is going to help me with public speaking. If you put me in front of a class of middle schoolers, no problem. Class of adults. Kim Marcetta said, just remember, Carrie, you're with your peers. I'm like, that makes me more stressed because your opinion matters more to me than anybody else's because you're my colleagues. As you know, I'm Carrie Olson, and I'm the president of the Denver Public Schools Board of Education. And it's been my honor to lead these last 2 years with the teacher lens. And there are 3 reasons why I think that I'm the best candidate for your next board member for District 3. First of all, I'm experienced, I'm focused on the students, and I'm dedicated. 4 years ago, I told you, we need a teacher on the board, and you agreed with me, and you put me here. My 3 decades of experience in Denver Public Schools ensures that we will remain focused on the students and the teachers and all of you who support the teachers. Being a teacher, I know it wasn't just me who helped my students succeed. It was our school psychologist, it was our school social worker, it was our speech and language pathologist, it was all the people in our building who came together, the paraprofessional, the bus driver, this food nutrition worker who said to me, did you notice everyone hasn't been eating breakfast for the past 3 days? There's something wrong, you might want to check in with them. What this experience means is that when we had negotiations, I attended every single negotiation, and I attended every single picket line that I could. Thank you to the teachers who helped coordinate that for me. Which resulted in a 14% raise for teachers, which made, I remember that morning where I sat and watched them sign it. Tay was there. We taught Tay about rap music. Many of you have heard the story. Jeff Bacon and I were appalled that he didn't know the roots of rap, so we made sure that we gave him a lesson in that. But at 7 o'clock in the morning when they finally signed the contract, I remember all of us crying. And it was historical for me because I remember the first teacher strike that I was a part of in 1994, but to see the teachers get a 14% raise, and then being able to continue to fight for our other bargaining group, the sign language interpreters, as you mentioned, and all of the other groups, we have to keep that up. I'm proud to earn the support of the Denver Area Labor Federation. I'm proud to and the food and nutrition workers and the paraprofessionals have also endorsed my raise. These powerful groups mean more to me than any other endorsement because it comes from grassroots organizers. As we transition out of the pandemic with our new superintendent, you need a teacher on the board. You need somebody who has 33 years of walking in our classroom, knowing what it's like to show up at 7:19 with 35 seventh graders, ready or not for literacy. That experience means that you're going to have a veteran teacher supporting our superintendent and our new board colleagues as we move out of the pandemic and into the new era of DPS. This experience means that I know the power of building relationships. When Scott Esserman and I were recently on a call, we both simultaneously kept saying along with Michelle, it's the relationships that you build, it's the relationships. All of us in education know that to get anything done, you have to build relationships, and that's what I will bring. I will talk to our community, I will use our voices to solve some of our trickiest problems that we have coming up. 4 years ago, I said that you need a teacher on the board who lifts up student voices. You agreed with me here. And during my 4 years on the board, I've raised student voices. I've served as the liaison to student voice and leadership along with Director Anderson wherever he went. There you go. You changed your shirt. I'm looking for the white shirt. And we brought forward our Student Bill of Rights. We had the first ever student panel as we interviewed our new superintendent, which was sent to the Secretary of Education and Jill Biden. Because it's an example, although not perfect, a proven way to begin to ensure our students' voices are heard. I'm a supporter of our No Justice, No Peace resolution of financial literacy and ethnic studies, which are all no part of policy. I know we need to ensure students' physical and mental health, so that's why during the pandemic I brought forward crisis priorities, which the board immediately jumped on and said we need this to ensure nobody lost their job during the pandemic for a large school system, which ensured our students' needs were met because none of their teachers or their employees were let go. And no better belief of my belief in students is that I hired my former student as my campaign manager. And just to demonstrate the power of a student, I didn't interview him. He came back and interviewed me and said, I want to make sure that this is a good fit for me. So when I asked him, he said, you know I don't have any political experience. I'm like, yeah, but you knew me before I was a politician. You knew me when we were building community at Kepner. You knew me when your mother was pregnant with you. You knew me when I traveled with your brothers and sisters. So let's talk. He's like, I need to think about this. And he came back and said, I want to interview you to make sure this is a good fit. So over the next 4 years, I will take all that I've learned from my students, especially with traveling with over 800 students to Washington, D.C. and Europe during 20 years. I know that those trips have taught me that you build strong relationships with students, and then you put curriculum that's interesting and engaging to them, and you can ensure their academic success. Also, I mentioned, we have somebody here who knows one of my former foster daughters who said, you should mention her. But being a foster parent for students in DPS and my daughter knows that we need to think about equity not just as a word on the wall, but how it plays out every day in our classrooms, and no better than teachers who understand how that plays out in all of our day-to-day interactions with students. 4 years ago, I said that you needed somebody who is dedicated to DPS and won't give up. DPS has been a part of my life since 1985, and you agreed and you put me here. No better proof of my dedication to DPS than my 33 years in our classroom and 4 years on the board. No better proof of my dedication to DPS than sending my daughter to DPS schools, including Kepner Middle School when she was in middle school, and Angelina and Alina, Kim Rossetta's daughters, also remember all those years at Kepner. And creating the most inclusive superintendent search in the history of Denver Public Schools. I know, yes. Director Addison and I and everybody on this board is very proud. While there were areas where we could have improved, we had 71 community members interview 3 finalists. And if you think of the progression of how we hired superintendents in Denver Public Schools, it used to be more of a closed-door experience where you came out and you said, either this is the one, or here's 2, but there was never any interaction. We had an open and transparent process that included 71 community members, including a student panel. So those are the types of things that you can expect from me as we come forward. As we say in Spanish, hablando se entiende, that's one of my core beliefs. We have to talk with everybody, not just with those who agree with us, but those who disagree with us. Thank goodness we're in a democracy where we can explore many different points of view to find the best path forward for our students. This dedication means that in the next 4 years, you can count on me, a career teacher, to bring my experience, my dedication, and my willingness to work to ensure that DCTA and other bargaining units are included along the way. This dedication means that you can rest assured that student voices will be highlighted at every turn, so that they not just inform us how they want to learn, but what they want to learn. You can count on me and my dedication to strong public schools. I will not give up on DPS, and I will do the work as teachers know, right? Sometimes people say, you're not even paid for what you do, why do you keep working? How many times have those of us in the room who are working in education stayed after and you're not thinking, I'm not paid for this, although some days I have to say, you're sitting there thinking, I'm not even paid for this. But you do what you need to do to get the work done. I will continue to bring my unparalleled focus on students to the Board of Education. I will be relentless in pursuit of strong public schools, and our work never ends. And as Rob said, we still have work to do, and I'm excited to do that. I'd be honored to have your vote on November 2nd. I'd love for you to get out the vote and make sure that everybody votes. Please join me in supporting all the DCTA candidates and reminding everybody the power of grassroots education on the Board of Education. I'm Carrie Olson, and I'm running for re-election in this session.
Carrie, thank you so much, and thank you. We're excited for everybody. Something you said in your speech reminded me of our next candidate, and that's relationships. And actually, okay, I can't talk about what we do on the fund. You know, we have a rule, right? What we do on the fund talks about fund, but I will tell you this one thing. After we met this next candidate, all of us looked at each other, and literally we just said, wow. Because we were so excited. Michelle Padua. We just said, wow. We met her through this little screen. Come on up here. No, so we met in the street, right? But literally, we all had to take a step back and go, wow, like this is the thing we want from her.
No pressure.
It's true. It's no pressure. But Michelle Padua has the needed experience of examining large budgets and finding areas of growth. But beyond that, she has experience of changing the systems of DPS to better serve our students. She fought for a more equitable IB program at George and made it happen. In fact, she was so dedicated to changing how things work. In the end, they ended up hiring her. And she's now an intricate part of GW, executing their Black Excellence Plan, working with educators, students, and their families. Everybody, let's give a round. Let's welcome Michelle.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot, but thank you for the kind words. I'm Michelle Padua. I'm who I am. I'm a mom of 3 that graduated from DPS. They're doing great. If you get a chance to talk with me one-on-one, I'll fill you in on what they're doing. I don't want to take the time up to go into that. But yes, I am a mom of 3 graduates of DPS. I'm really excited about the One George framework at George Washington High School. I have exciting news. I haven't really shared this, but it took 6 years to do that. And it's a framework, right? And throughout those 6 years, I knew that none of my children would benefit from the work that I was doing. I understood I couldn't do it by myself, so I didn't do it by myself. I understood that we needed to get down to what the real pain point was, right? And because we had been dealing with the symptoms of what was going on. And we truly had to identify what the pain point was so that we could maximize the gain. And part of that process also included making sure the right individuals were at the table. So So we had to look at who the stakeholders were. So these are some of the stakeholders that worked on that committee that I had independent conversations with and collaborative conversations with. On that committee, there were parents, there were students, there were faculty or teachers, there were administrators of the school. We even got central administration representation involved. We even had, it was a group that often flies under the radar, which saddens me, but we also included our special education parents and teachers at the table, right? And so it's something that we still have work to do. And over the next 4 years, I hope that my plan is to work on bringing equity within special education and bringing that in, actually in conversation all the time with parents and teachers and family members. But a success story of One George is last year we had a student, a Latino male, who graduated. He was accepted into Harvard, Yale. My favorite, though, is Howard, because most of you know I'm a HBCU proponent. But he actually graduated from the AVID program and the IB program. That's what equity in education is. He did not have to select which educational track he was going to take. He was able to take the classes that fit his needs. And that's how we create quality schools. But it took a collaborative effort. That is what I bring to the table. I know how to bridge gaps, communication gaps. It's my lifelong commitment. It's you meet me, and that's what I do. Right? So I'm committed to equity. I am not afraid to leverage it. So yes, I will work directly with, well, I'm not going to say directly, because really what it will be is I will hold our new superintendent accountable. As well as partnering with my fellow directors, because, you know, we want success on the list. And making sure that we have the right people in the room. And I also am not afraid to bring in those that think differently than me. Trust me, I dealt with IB parents. They did not think the same as I thought. But many of them we may not have emerged as friends, but we did in that process with a healthy respect for one another. And that's one of the things that I'm able to do is I can respectfully disagree with you and productively work with you. I'm Michelle Pottlebaum. I'm running for Denver Public School Board Director for District 4, and I'd like to count on your votes November 2nd.
Michelle, thank you so much, and thanks for being here, and thank you for jumping in, right, and being that voice. We need communication. We need listening. For a long time in BPS, teachers, SSTs, all of us, we hadn't been listened to. Nobody knows that. And we know that quite well. And in fact, our next candidate knows that firsthand. so our next candidate is Scott Esserman. Scott, come on. Excited to have you here today, sir. And so not only has Scott Esserman spent over 20 years in the classroom, but he's also been fully engaged in BPS as a dad, just like BPS dad, and a community advocate. Scott currently leads the DAC committee, ensuring that our parents have a voice in BPS. He sits on several boards, allowing him to oversee large budgets, and works with the anti-defamation. Scott has worked towards the reopening of Manual High School and continues to push towards a more equitable BPS. Let's welcome Scott. And Scott.
So I remember this day incredibly well 20 years ago for a variety of reasons. Not the least of which was, it was about my 8th or 9th year teaching, my first year teaching at Cherry Creek High School. And Cherry Creek High School at that point started at 6:50, because that's a healthy time for high school kids. So, but that was when we started. So I was driving and pulling into the parking lot, into that empty parking lot, and listening to NPR, which was what we used to do in the day before there were all kinds of like better things to listen to, good things to listen to. And I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about a plane having hit the World Trade Center. And in my context, that was like having read history about some small private plane that had hit the Empire State Building. That was my framework for it. I couldn't imagine what it had been. So I got into my classroom and I turned on the TV and had CNN on, and it wasn't a big TV, and it wasn't a Promethean screen. It was a little TV mounted in the corner, upper corner of the classroom. And I was watching as the second plane hit the second time. And I had the TV on because I didn't know what else to do. It was so bewildering. As my first class entered, we watched as that first tower collapsed. And didn't know what we were watching. Couldn't put it into context. But by the next day, I had a student of Indian descent in my class. I had a student of Korean descent in my class, talking about the hate and spite that they had experienced in the halls, being targeted with anti-Muslim rhetoric. And it was painful. And it was painful for them. I come back to that every year at this time. I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I've been in the classroom, lived in the classroom. I teach. That's what I do, even when I'm not in the classroom, like most of you. I'm Scott Esselman, and I'm your candidate for school board at large this year, and I am more proud of any endorsement I've got. The DCTA endorsement means the most to me because it's my people, because it's where I was for 20 years. Well, I've been in DPS as a parent. I worked on the CSCs at Montclair Elementary, where my kids went. I worked on CSCs and helped hire principals at Montclair, Denver Discovery, Manual, a whole bunch of different places. I opened Northfield High School. I wrote that innovation plan and served on the opening faculty at Northfield High School, where I learned firsthand most of the dis in the functioning of Denver Public Schools. For those of you who were around and paying attention to what was going on in Northfield that year, it was a lot. It was a lot. And all of the things that we talked about in terms of equity. We opened Northfield as an IB for all school, because the only IB programs I had known up to that point were highly segregated. White students took IB classes. Black and brown students took regular classes. And it's not, we can't continue functioning like that. And we function like that all over the place. So as a former teacher, when I'm on doors and when I'm knocking, you should see, right? You get that moment and people are like, who is this knocking at my door? And you tell them you're running for school board, they soften up a little bit. You're not actually selling it or asking them for money. And then you tell them that you were a teacher. And they're like, oh. Because we know, polling-wise, teachers are highly respected. Not treated in that way, but highly respected. Then I tell them that I'm endorsed by the teachers. And the vast majority of people get really excited about my campaign. They get excited that I'm endorsed by Lisa Scarziga on the state board. They get excited that I'm endorsed by Attorney General Phil Weiser. They get excited that I'm endorsed by Jim Bacon. They get excited about all kinds of things, but when I say DCTA, and I'm endorsed by the teachers, and I'm endorsed by the teachers union, that's what clicks with people. That's what they want to hear, because they respect you, they honor you, and they trust you. So what am I going to bring to the board? I'm going to bring all the experiences Rob was explaining, and I'm not going to go over again, because you heard it once. But I'm also going to bring a focus and a lens on ensuring that the results we get for our students are what they should be. students are achieving just like our white students are. Because that's what our system has to do. That's what it's failed to do, regardless of charters, regardless of innovation schools. None of that has changed it. None of that has made it better. We have to do the things that actually make it better. We have to believe that every student that walks into our classroom can learn and will learn. And we don't just have to believe it, we have to live it. And we have to honor their lived experiences, and we have to promote relationships with them. Because we have to transform this system. We have to have a liberatory system that provides the social emotional supports for our students that we know they need, and that as teachers we often act as a stopgap for, or SSPs, we often act as a stopgap for, even though we're not trained for it. Because we're the only people that. We've got to change that. We've got to address familial and generational trauma. The Black Panther Party said students can't learn if they don't have food in their bellies and if they don't have shoes on their feet. It's still true today. And we know better than most when those students walk in the classroom what that looks like. I was raised by a mom who was a speech and language pathologist for deaf kids in St. Louis, Missouri. And that formed all of my educational philosophy. Because she lived in a world of profoundly deaf students who most people would have discarded and would have said they can't learn. And they can't. The model that we need for our schools is what we tried to implement at Denver Discovery School. We tried to implement a community school model that does annual needs assessments, that makes sure that our school buildings aren't just open during the school day, but are providing what our schools need, what our families need after school hours. How many more of our disproportionate Black families who haven't been vaccinated would have been vaccinated if vaccines were offered in the school building? That we have to move in that direction. Yes, I'm excited to work with our new superintendent. And as a closing, I got to say two things. One, I'm honored that y'all came out today, and I have to thank you because this is the hard work, and this is what is going to get Carrie and myself and Michelle and Sochi elected. Is people out talking to people about us. And you are those people. You are the people they trust. You are the people they want to hear from. You are the people that they see as the insiders. I value my relationships with my former students. I value my relationships with current board members. I value my relationships with members of the District Accountability Committee, which, in addition to looking out for parent interests, also looks out for teacher interests. We've had teacher members of the District Accountability Committee I'm proud of for the last couple of years while I've been chair. And we've reached out and made sure that we've had those. And that's critical because your voices have to be heard. Just like they did when I was on the lines at Montclair, marching with teachers, leading chants, because I don't know if you can tell, I can project a little. Had flashbacks, because I also brought them stand cameras, which they were loved. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for the work that you do. That is your work, but thank you for this work that you're doing today that's going to ensure that you have the voice and, more importantly, you have the ear on the school board moving forward. I'm Scott Esserman. I'm a candidate for Denver Public Schools Board at Large, and I'm your candidate for Denver Public Schools.
Thank you, Scott. So, our next candidate, she actually is, she's very busy, so she got time. She actually had to run to another canvassing spot just a few minutes ago. So we're going to have Director Anderson's going to come up and talk in just a second for Sochi. But I just wanted to say a few words about Sochi. I mean, she's amazing, right? Like 2 years ago, we came so close to getting Sochi elected on the board in 2017. And it's time that we finish what we started. Sochi and her family have first-hand experience of the negative impacts of displacement when we closed and she has dedicated her time to ensure that no other family goes through the same pain that hers did. She knows that when we put money in classrooms and not the boardroom, our children thrive. Her drive is exactly what we need to ensure that our students are always put first. Director Anderson, can you come on up here and talk to us?
So obviously, I'm not Sochi. However, we know how to win in Southwest Denver when we have endorsed candidates by the Denver Classroom Teachers Association. I'm a product of that. We need to finish the job that we started in 2017 with Sochi. She came 700 votes short. We're going to now have to make sure that we fill that gap, get her elected, and make sure that the school board goes 7-0 in the Union State. Southwest Denver is in the ecosystem of change. There's heat mitigation issues where schools are being forced to close for multiple days on end. Where there are consolidation issues where we're talking about disrupting communities and pulling schools together and closing various schools. Where the charter industry has flourished and parents don't even know the difference between their neighborhood school and a school that sent them a nice flashy trailer and says, we want your student to come here. Southwest Denver is the heart of change in Denver public schools. And right now, we need a champion for those children. That champion will be Sochi. That champion will be her on the board saying, hell no, we're not going to close these schools without actually having a real plan of supporting our educators in a pathway to how they actually get to a new environment. We've seen it time and time again. We close schools, we disrupt communities. We displace teachers. That can no longer happen. Sochi understands the needs of ensuring that when we talk about putting bond and mill levies on the ballot that talk about air, we have to prioritize the schools that, one, are not only just the hottest, but that have the kids of color that are sitting in there, that the PTAs can't raise $1 million to put air in their windows. Those are the schools. Those are the schools that we have to make sure that we put first. It's about making sure that when we do talk about school choice, parents in Southwest Denver aren't choosing between the neighborhood school and the school that has a color on it that says they are a good school. We know how the SPF works. We know that how it has hurt our schools in the past. And this is our opportunity to send a champion to say every school in Southwest Denver, regardless of where you go to school, is great. Our teachers everywhere should be unionized. To making sure that there are safe working conditions. To making sure there are safe working conditions for our school facility staff. And then as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have to do real work. Not just filling the gap of what does it mean to come back to school for the first time, but addressing the mental health needs of all of our students and our educators. So we know how to win, don't we, teachers?
Yeah.
Y'all didn't sound like y'all know how to win. We know how to win in Southwest Denver, right? So this November, we're going to send Scott to the school board. We're going to send Carrie to the school board. We're going to send Michelle to the school board. And we're going to send Sochi to the school board in Southwest Denver. And we will make sure the union majority is 7-0. That's what we're going to do on election day. Are you ready? That we have champions for our educators, but also champions for our students. Let's get to work. 7-0, that's the vote we want, and that's in the union majority. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Director Anderson. And before we close, Kristen's going to come up and she's going to give us a little bit of background.
I need the boring stuff after that. So sorry. So I think you all know I'm the political consultant for DCTA. I'm also an APS mom of 2. I got my youngest son is on IEP, so this is really personal to me. So I'm in the trenches with all of you fighting. I'm the mom in parent-teacher conferences that says, what do you need? Do I I need to shout something to your principal? Do I need to shout something at the board for you? And I hope more parents do that for you guys. So I cry regularly for my teachers, so if I'm crying, don't judge me. So I think they all went over everything. I think Scott kind of covered canvassing really well. When you guys now, when you in that beautiful red t-shirt, and you say, I am an educator, and this is who I'm supporting for school board, that is the most powerful statement you can say on those doors. It's COVID, so I just want to go over some basic COVID protocols. When you're knocking on the door, wear your mask. Knock, ring, 2 steps back, so there's a little more distance. Some people won't open the door, that's okay. Ask them if it's okay if you leave the lid with them. Everybody has a beautiful QR code, so you get to scan it. They won't take the lid, scan this, and go ahead and you'll have all the information you need. They do take the lid, say, remember to put this on your refrigerator, don't throw it away. You don't want to forget who to vote for when your ballot comes. So that's really, really important. Never leave anything on a mailbox. It's a federal crime. Please. Really important stuff. Be natural. There's scripts. Be natural. You don't have to read the script verbatim. And then, more importantly on that, I would say, never lie. If you don't know, it's okay to not know. Say, I don't know. I'll have the campaign reach out to you. I have more. If you've never canvassed before and you really want to go in deeper with me, I'm happy to meet with you. I know a lot of you have been out there, but I want us to get out there. Elections are run on the doors, and elections are run through your support and through these canvassers. So thank you all so much for being here. We're going out every Saturday from here until election. There's more opportunity. Yeah.
Just to add one thing real quick, part of what I've discovered is there are a lot of people out there who don't know that there's a school board election in November. So it's worth starting by asking, did you know there's a school board election in November? And then getting into it, and then repeat that. Ballots are being sent out by member elections on October 8th. It's our regular, wonderful mail-in delivery ballot system. But important to let people know that there is an election, when it is, and who the candidates are that you're supporting.
And ring doorbells, I was reminded, they do record you, so you can leave a message. But also, they're watching, so be nice while you're there. Oh, and if you see an opponent's lip, don't touch it. Just let it be. Take a picture and send it to me.
Put doorbell in, make sure they hear you.
Yep. Thank you, Kristen.